Welcome to everyone, and especially welcome to our newbies, Liz and Vic and Stephanie and Marie and Janelli and Laura. We're so happy to have you here. I'm going to give you just a real brief intro to the accelerators. You are now officially a part of the Accelerator group. We started early in 2020, and Kelly, I think, was part of that group to help job seekers really accelerate their careers and back to employment. If everyone can flash back to 2020, a lot of people were losing their jobs due to COVID. And we formed a small but mighty group of people who met every week. And I was the designated career coach for all these folks. And so I helped them with their interview prep and helping them fix up their LinkedIn profiles and resume review and all the good things that got people back on track. We went from 6 members back in 2020, and I'm proud to say we are approaching the 600 number mark. And so if you're interested in joining the Accelerator group, that's a private LinkedIn group on, private group on LinkedIn rather. Lori has just put in the link to join in the chat, and you're welcome to come, and I will absolutely accept all of you into our group. Also, if you have not yet put your URL, your LinkedIn URL into the chat, you should certainly do that and let us know what kind of job you're looking for. If you are on the job search, you never know who you're going to meet or bump into on today's call. And so definitely put your information into the chat so we can connect with each other. And Lori's going to drop my URL in as well. I see it's there. Thank you, Lori. So that you can connect with me. You're all welcome to connect with me. I love to expand my network, especially with people who are so committed to their growth. And since you're here today, I know that you are. So congratulations. We host monthly events. Every single month we have an event. Next month, I want you to mark your calendars for February 6th. That's, I think, a Tuesday as well. And Kenneth Lang is going to speak to us about using LinkedIn as a job search engine. And Kenneth is with us today, so he may share some of his expertise during our call. The registration is open for that event, so you're welcome to go in and sign up. I think we already have about 8 people, I think, when I looked at before I got on the call. So it's going to be a popular one for sure. Nuggets. Sue Griffey mentioned nuggets. I believe in paying it forward. And so it's so important that we capture the information that Kevin's going to be sharing with us today. And if you would, just put a golden nugget into the chat, because 2 things are going to happen. Number 1, I will create a post based on those nuggets of everything that Kevin spoke about, so that people who weren't able to join us today certainly will be able to see those and read them. And I hope to get out that post tomorrow. And number 2, when you write something down, it sticks in your brain a little bit better. So Kevin's going to say a lot of things. And so we want you to learn and grow with all of us. And just so you know, Kevin is my go-to person for all new features on LinkedIn. When Kevin joined us in June, we were at 90 new features. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but I went back to my notes. We had 90 new features on LinkedIn in June. And so I'm going to ask you to put in the chat if you know, or if you can guess, how many new features we ended up having in 2023. We just started 2024. So if you know, if you follow Kevin, then you may know. If not, I'm going to let Kevin tell us the real number. But I'd like to see in the chat how many you think, how many new features we had. 125, I see. Let's see the numbers that you can guess if you like. Neil, it's a little higher than that. I'll give you a hint. 227, 324. All right, Kevin, this is going to be a great spoiler. Kevin called it 170, 322, over 5,000. No, not that many. Oh my gosh, I hope it's not that many. Anyway, so I'm going to introduce Kevin. He is a master at all things LinkedIn. He is the one who keeps track of all these new features and even features that they get rid of, like our beautiful videos that they got rid of in our profiles. I'm going to ask Kevin to introduce himself. He's the guy, he's got over 200 LinkedIn recommendations. If you have not yet connected with Kevin, he's the man to follow for sure. And one of the things that I love about this group is I love sharing great and talented people like Kevin with you. So Kevin, I'm going to turn it over to you because you could probably take 12 hours to talk about all the things that you could share with our group. But if you can just help us learn and grow even more about how LinkedIn can help us, especially in the job search, because so many of the folks that are on this call are in this job search mode, that would be great. Thanks, Kevin. Oh, tell us the real number.
The real number that I put down is 169 for the LinkedIn features that were new, 33 updates, and 18 rests in peace, right? And we also track deprecations, which means it's there, but they're not maintaining it and they don't suggest it. So if you take all that together, technically there were over 200 changes on LinkedIn last year. And I don't think we're going to be far off from that this year. And some big changes in the sense of how LinkedIn is going to do things going forward. And that is they're going to use less third-party software to make things happen. So they're going to have the option of native processing. And that's something they've been working on for a few months now. And they're just starting to show some tools around that. So like doing a live, you have to have a third party. Pretty soon you'll be able to do a live right from LinkedIn. So native video processing, those kind of things, it's going to make it easier for people to join in. They don't have to have a third party and they're paying that third party $30 a month. And, they're making it connect with LinkedIn, which doesn't always work well. LinkedIn's going to have its own kind of source in. So I think those are kind of some of those bigger changes that are coming. And, LinkedIn, because they were purchased by Microsoft, we discovered a few years back that Microsoft gave them a new LinkedIn feature KPI, right? You got to produce a certain amount every year so that we know the site is improving and growing and all that kind of stuff. And that's where a lot of this stuff drives from, because some of these features are silly, right? Some of them are pretty good, but they're pumping out so many. And it really goes down to they've got to reach that KPI if they want to keep their jobs, if they want to get their bonuses, everything else. If they want to keep their owner happy, right? They got to get to the KPIs. So they're doing this. So when I make my list like updates, I guess an update's an update because I wouldn't consider it a feature, but maybe they consider it a feature. So there's a little flexibility in those numbers. And that's why we try to kind of report all of it. But LinkedIn is a very complicated place. It is very siloed in the way they do things. And it doesn't have a lot of history into what has been done. So that's why it gets a little quirky. It gets a little glitchy at times. We were talking about something that happened this morning with the profile topics, which people call talks about. They disappeared on desktop. Personally, I believe they're going to come back. They might be in a different place, but they're going to show back up. And I think it's just because they introduced a couple new things that are coming out soon that have changed some of the ordering on the profile. And so I think that's what it is. It's just a temporary glitch. If you can't find it on LinkedIn, sometimes you can wait a day or two and it'll be back. Just somewhere else.
I've noticed that also. Sometimes things disappear, and then when they disappear, I know they're working on something, and then next day they come back.
Yeah, and you fill out the help report, and they make you dance and stand on your one hand and unplug your computer and all that stuff. And they finally get to the point where it fixes itself, and then they say, "Well, we can't find it. We can't find the issue." So sometimes just waiting it out is the best thing, and don't ever have a fear that you don't have the latest. Greatest on LinkedIn, because sometimes having it first is not a good thing. There are things that you can try from LinkedIn. You'll put a lot of time and effort into it, and it might blow up, and they might say, you know what, it's no good. We're not going to use this. And then all that work goes away. Sometimes it's better to be in the middle or at the end. And LinkedIn does all of its rollouts in 5 waves, right? So you're going to be in one of those 5 waves. You're randomly chosen. So not so-and-so gets them every single time. They're just usually the loudest people, right? Or they get exposure like I do from other people in other waves that tell me about things. So you're randomly selected. The waves are timed. So they have a certain time frame. LinkedIn's going to look at that wave, see how it rolls out, and decide if they have to fix anything. And then it'll roll out to the next wave. And the waves will become increasing in size. A LinkedIn rollout can take anywhere from 30 to 90 days. There have been rollouts that have taken over a year. So, but 30 to 90 days is a good average. And LinkedIn actually says that 70% of the people who have a new LinkedIn feature didn't know about it for 60 days. So when people say, I never get the new stuff, they probably had it 60 days ago. They just didn't know they had it, right? And then they'll always be surprised. Oh, and I just checked and I've got it today too. Well, they may have had it 60 days ago. Don't be afraid, because the core of LinkedIn, what LinkedIn really is about is networking, building community, finding opportunities, sharing. Those things are not feature-based per se. Those little features that come in aren't going to change that part of the equation. So no matter where you are in those rollouts, just know that the core value of LinkedIn is going to be there for you. So I always like to kind of start there. To me, LinkedIn is fascinating because we are now at 1 billion members, right? Give or take 30, 40,000 million fakes or whatever it is, right? Whatever you want to make the number to be, but that's where they are.
Not only fakes on there, Kevin, but I've seen a lot of people who have passed away. When you say RIP,
oh yeah,
I know plenty of people who passed away that are still coming up. So,
and if you see them, you can report them to memorialize them. LinkedIn will go and check, and if you're not a family member and you don't have paperwork, then they can do a kind of a status in between. But if you're a family member and you want it memorialize the profile, so there's no communication, people don't think they're alive, they're not getting birthday reminders, those kind of things, you can memorialize the profile. It stays there. It has a little in memory banner on it. It's a good thing to do. So if you do see that, make sure you're reporting it into LinkedIn so they can kind of tighten those things up, in that sense.
So we have already a question, Kevin. You haven't even started your presentation. We have a question. And I don't know if Kenneth is trying to poke the bear or what, but he
Not
first
Kenneth.
said, which is true. We are all testing LinkedIn all the time. We're like their built-in testers. But he wants to know, what's the reasoning behind limiting monthly personal connections for basic? Would you like to opine on that question?
I brought it up just as a question in general for the group. I kind of know what the answer is, but I think a lot of people ask me that question. So I thought, yeah.
And there's been 2 answers out there that are coming from LinkedIn. One answer is, we've got a new boss and they want us to make more money. So by limiting the free customizable invitations, right, we might be able to get a few of those to step into premium. That's one reasoning that's out there. Another reasoning that is coming from LinkedIn is that spammers are using invites, customized invites, to kind of propagate their process within LinkedIn. So they're heavily using it with automation. It would say, dear Mindy, blah, 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 read your profile and we worked in the same industry, blah, 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 right? They're using the customized emails or messages, invites. They're using that customization to kind of push the spam forward. So LinkedIn thought 2 things is probably what it was: make more money, and maybe we'll reduce spam in one way. I don't like when they do things to grow the business that takes away from freemium. I don't think they should. There's better ways to do it. Make your premium better, and they're doing that. And so I never get mad if LinkedIn comes up with a feature that they decide is a premium only feature, because LinkedIn is a business. We always have a tendency to forget that, right? It's not Craigslist. It's not, this social good site, although we get social good from it. It is a business. They do make money. They're actually the only social media platform that has been wildly profitable since the first year. Facebook hasn't made any money. Twitter's losing money, right? Big time. Facebook loses it as well, but they're the only ones that have been wildly profitable. And it's because they know what they're doing as a business. And so I never take it back from, if they create something and throw it into premium to get people to buy into premium, to me, that's okay. But don't take away from freemium.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right, Kevin, let's get into some things for these job seekers that are specific to them. But I know in June, we talked about a couple of them are really important points. So
yeah, we'll jump right into those, because again, with LinkedIn being this massive database, right? Billion people. You have a choice when you're on LinkedIn. You can be one of a billion, or you can be number one in a billion for what you do. And a lot of that is about fitting into how LinkedIn sees you within LinkedIn, because we're the product. 65% of LinkedIn's annual revenue, some $11 billion of that annual revenue, comes from selling members to other members. That's who we are. We are the core product, not the core customer. So always good to remember that. And part of being a product is you have to fit a category. If you ran a grocery store and I sent you a product that didn't fit on the eye level, on the end cap, at the bottom level, it didn't fit anywhere, it ends up on the shelf back by the bathroom, right? The dusty, dirty, dented cans, they put it in there. That's the other shelf. So if we don't accept LinkedIn's categories, we become an other. Majority of the profiles on LinkedIn are others. They're not really well category fit. And that's what LinkedIn doesn't really tell you, that you need to do these things. I'm going to pull up my share screen here because we want to jump in. Let's see if I got that. Okay. So first thing is, as you're getting into your profile and you're editing, there are points of information within the top card, right? Or within the actual content. We'll go into that. One of the first pieces is industry. LinkedIn has changed industries multiple times over the last 4 years. 30% of what existed 4 years ago doesn't exist today. So if you set up your profile 4 years ago, you might be in that 30% that is technically not associated with an industry. So you always want to make sure, if you're typing in something, you always want to take from the drop-down box. These are called market value filters. This is how you fit into LinkedIn's categories. If you don't do that and you make up your own, then you can't be found if somebody does an industry search for somebody who has X, Y, and Z skills. So you always want to take these market value filters, really important. The same thing with location. Now, what is interesting, most of the time, market value filters are positioned with a drop-down box that start with the best choice first, the one that's most popular, and goes down to the least popular choice. So always select from the top if you can. Location is the only one that is different because it will lock from zip code to the city and then go from there. But that's in your top card. I like to point out industry because normally what LinkedIn will do is it will take the industry that the company that you last worked for was in, and that becomes your industry. So let's say you were in HR for automotive. Your industry technically won't be HR, it'll be listed as automotive. Well, if I don't want to go any further in automotive, but I want to keep my HR going, I want to go back and reselect the industry. So I hope that makes sense to everyone. As we cruise down here, I'm going to go right into experience section because this is where a lot of these market value filters are. So first one is going to be your title, right? Most people will use the title that the company assigned them. If you use that market value title, and it's not within the categories of LinkedIn, they can't search for you by title. We learned this a long time ago. We did the transition for the head of HR for Yahoo. His company title name was Cloud9 Navigator. That's what he had typed in this box. The problem with that is nobody was searching for it. We changed it to Chief Human Resource Officer, and he was scalped within 2 weeks off LinkedIn for an incredible opportunity. So it's about using their terms. So you always want to select, and again, it's going to go based on what you're typing, and then it's going to give you some options, and you select the one that fits best, but they're always going to give most popular on down to least popular. So depending on your exposure or what fits. Employment is the same thing. We got a market value filter in here. Most people leave this blank. If you leave it blank, your default is you're less than seasonal in value. So you can see how each one of these to an employer goes up in value, right? If you are unemployed and you join a temporary agency, right, to go out there, or you set up your own shingle, you put up a business page, go ahead and click full-time because you're full-time working anyway. Might not be the legal definition of full-time, but click full-time because it's going to give you the greatest ranking in this process. Location type, same thing. So right now, companies they want on-site, most companies, right? Most employees want remote. Hybrid might be a good option if you want to get maximize exposure, right? And you still want to have that open conversation. So that's the one that I think is a good default if you want to make sure everybody's kind of looking at your profile. Because if you select remote and they don't want remote, they won't talk to you at all. So if you're open, go hybrid, and that's going to give you a little more selectability on there. Skills are going to be the same thing. Anytime you want to add a skill, right? If you start typing it in, it's going to give you, as you're typing in, options. You want to select the ones they give you. This one's a great one, mergers and acquisitions. A lot of people have it as M&A, right? Or mergers and, spelled out the word, and acquisitions. This is the one LinkedIn uses. Now, why is that important when we go back to thinking about 65% of the annual revenue comes from members being sold to other members, right? That's Recruiter is a tool set, and the other one is Sales Navigator. Well, if 65% of your business comes from those two customers, you're going to set up everything else on that platform to perform well for those customers, because that's the core of your business. And that's what LinkedIn does. So if you select from these dropdowns, you're going to please LinkedIn, and LinkedIn's going to promote you because they can understand you. So another thing that comes with market value filters is the ability for LinkedIn to use AI to understand what you do. So if you had certain skills selected, but the job might have required 2 other skills that you don't have selected, LinkedIn, through knowing industry, knowing the market value title, maybe knowing your other skills, LinkedIn can then contextually assume you have those skills you need and promote you to those recruiters or push you up the list when you do a job application. So I hope that makes sense. But if you don't select these, that part won't happen. So discard that. Number one market value filter I see go wrong is in certifications, certifications and education. People just start typing in whatever they want. If you go into those, and again, LinkedIn changed this database because a few years back, it used to look like this. So if you have your thing like this, where you've got the degree or the certification and then brackets with the abbreviation, that's LinkedIn's old database, which is no longer good. So you want to back it out and take from the drop down, right? If you don't do that, you might put in their bachelor's, you might put in, BBA, whatever it is. LinkedIn won't know that you have the degree. So if LinkedIn's trust factor with its customers are they require somebody with a degree or somebody with a master's or somebody with program management, certified, if they require those, but they can't tell you that you have them because you didn't select it correctly, you're not going to be at the top of the list. You might not even be on the list. So go back and check those. Now, this is one thing that I think is very controversial. If you don't put your graduation date on your education, you will not be included in recruiter searches that require a degree. Wrong or right, that's how LinkedIn does it. Because LinkedIn knows that its recruiters want to know the graduation date. And actually, LinkedIn provides a tool from the other side that allows recruiters to even look up profiles based on X amount of years from graduation. So if I wanted to hire a bunch of freshers, I would say, 1 year from graduation or 5 years from graduation, but no more. Is that wrong or right? It's probably, in my opinion, it's not ethical. It gets used incorrectly, but it is part of that system. So no, it's there. But I always look at, if you're worried that a company's going to know how old you are, so you leave this date off, and let's say they did put you in the selection process and you got to an interview and they figured out how old you are when you get there. Do you think you're going to change their opinion if they're ages? Probably not. I look at this as almost a litmus test. Don't give me those people anyway, because I'm not going to get along with them. They're not going to get along with me. I want people who want me for who I am and what I bring to the table. And believe it or not, there are more and more employers that are looking for older employees because they have certain things that the younger generations don't, and they need it. They're having a deficit in that area. So it can be a huge advantage, but if you don't put that date, you won't be included in recruiter searches if they require any kind of degree or certification. So hopefully that helps. And definitely go back and check. I normally suggest that everybody do a quarterly, biannual, or annual audit of their profile. Go back and check all these things to make sure you're using whatever LinkedIn's current, because LinkedIn won't tell you when they make these changes. Now, I do have a, let's see if I can find it. Somewhere in here. Yeah, can't see it. I've got a video on my YouTube channel about LinkedIn. That's all it is. And it's, what do recruiters see? I'm not going to play this because it takes too long, but this is going to go through everything from the recruiter side when they're looking for you, all the little things they can turn on and off, and you'll directly see how it relates back to those market value filters, because that's the driver. If you think about 1 billion files in a filing cabinet, if everybody could make up their own categories, we'd never find a single file again. If everybody uses the set categories, then every file can be found for the right reason. Does that make sense? I hope. So another concept that I wanted to kind of touch into is, if we think about LinkedIn, data is gold, right? LinkedIn is the gold mine. Everybody wants that gold there, but they want the freshest gold, right? If you went into a grocery store and somebody offered you a steak or a kumquat, right? And they said, this one's 30 days old and this one is brand new. I just cut it off the cow or I just pulled it off the tree. Which one has more value? Usually the freshest one, right? Our data on LinkedIn is the same thing. The fresher our data, the more they feel comfortable promoting us because they know it's really accurate. If we don't come on LinkedIn but once a month or once a year, they're going to look at that profile going, it could be very inaccurate. So we're not going to promote it. If we do things like leave our messaging box full or not accepting invites for 3-4 weeks at a time, LinkedIn looks at that and says, they're not very active. They probably won't be very responsive to a recruiter or sales navigator or a main customer. So we're going to push that profile down. So you always want to do things on a timely way within LinkedIn. There's a couple areas that you want to think about in contact information. If you were to open mine, it doesn't show it here. Let me see if I can pull up Mindy here. Oh, it's not actually telling me. There we go. In the about this profile, pardon me, not in contact. It used to be in contact. What this is going to tell me is a little bit of information about Mindy, but it'll tell me things like, when was the last time she updated her profile picture? Contact information, right? Is she verified? When did she verify? These are areas you could load that same picture. Every month you could load it and it would show up that you just updated your picture, right? You become more active, more fresh. Your data is better in that sense because they know that represents you because you're putting it up there. So think about those kind of things to make sure that you are always timely within LinkedIn. So this is also one of my favorite features, and LinkedIn is promoting this. Because there are a fair share of fakes on LinkedIn, verification becomes really important, because if they know the product is verified in one way or another, they're going to feel more comfortable selling it to a recruiter or to sales navigator. And therefore, you're going to do better. So LinkedIn is promoting people within search that are verified. And if you go in and do searches, you'll notice a lot of your searches, those top things are going to say verified. What they're trying to do is make sure everybody moves this direction. That's why they've left it free to do. And there's several options. You can verify through a government ID. You can verify through a lot of the corporate emails now. And they're even getting down into smaller companies. I just did a law firm that only has 50 people. Before, it had to be a Fortune Global 50 company to get email verification. Now it's moving on down the rank. So almost everybody, supposedly by the middle of this year, should be able to verify an email as long as it's a custom email, right? If it's a Gmail or something like that, you can't verify that. But if that's attached to a company page, get your verifications done. It does help you. And you'll be able to renew them. Now, some people worry about, they use a nickname, that kind of stuff. If you title your profile in your name that's on the driver's license, right, or on the passport, long enough to do the verification, you can then go back and change the name to a degree, right? If it says William on your driver's license, but you go by Billy or even Bob, right? Once you've done the verification process, you can go back and put Billy or Bob in there and it will work. It will stay until the next verification where you'll have to do the same thing again. So they'll take a little bit of variance. And there are some people that have changed names for different reasons. They can get that done. LinkedIn works with that, and that's how they're doing it. So if it's your name itself that's on the document that worries you, don't worry about it. There's ways around that to get it done right.
Kevin, can I ask a question?
Yes.
About staying current? Does the amount or the frequency of posting, does that help you to stay current in the algorithm?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. This is really big right here, is activity. Anything that's in that activity section is contributing, right? Comments, posts, whatever you're doing, events, it's all activity. And LinkedIn knows you wouldn't be active on LinkedIn if your profile was wrong, right? If it wasn't the most updated. And so they know active people always have better data.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
On average, it's probably correct. It's not foolproof, but it's probably correct. It's the best that they can assume in the process. So yes, absolutely has an effect. One thing that I know we talked about this in our last time we got together, and that was about I'm interested. So everybody should have a target list of companies that they want to work for. If those companies are larger, right? And if you know those companies might use the recruiter tool set from LinkedIn, you can usually figure that out. One of the good things to do with that is to turn on, let me see. Oh, I'm just going to take it from the list here. I'm going to grab my Microsoft, right? Maybe that's a company I want to work for. If we scroll down, we hit the About section and we scroll down just a little bit. It says, well, I actually turned it on already. I showed somebody else. Let me undo that. It'll have this little section right here that says, I'm interested. What that's going to tell the company is, I'm not applying for a particular position, but I want you to know I'm interested in the company. Okay. So if you click that on, that's going to tell all the recruiters at that company that you are interested, and they should start looking at you for future opportunities, or maybe those hidden opportunities that they haven't posted, right? They don't want to talk about the territory director that they're pulling out of X, Y, and Z because it might upset the customer. They're going to hire for it, but they're not going to tell the world that they're doing it. That's the kind of stuff that you can find through the I'm interested. Well, if we go back to that concept of the time value of data, right? You turn this on, your interest today is really strong. Is it the same interest you have 90 days from now? Maybe not, right? Your interest might start to wane. LinkedIn assumes it does. It assumes maybe you found another job somewhere. So what they do is when you first do this, you are presented to the recruiters at the top of the list. And as time goes on, you start dropping down the list. Well, you can select up to 50 companies to tell them I'm interested. And that's great. But then do you have to go back to all 50 companies to turn it back off and turn it back on? I didn't even remember I had Microsoft turned on, which I'm going to undo because I don't want them calling me. If you go into your privacy settings and you go down to data privacy, roll it all the way down here, you've got signal your interest to recruiters that you're interested. So let's say I've selected 50 companies. I've told them all I'm interested. A week has gone by because I want to get hired now. A week's gone by. I don't want to be 20th on the list or 100th on the list. I want to be number 1 on the list when they open it up. All I got to do is turn that off and turn it back on. Now, all those recruiters using Recruiter that have this process, they can't have I'm interested if they don't have Recruiter. All of them now see you at the top of the list in the morning when they come in. Time value of data, right? So we want to put it to work for us. The same concept, if you think about open to work, right? If you think about the open to work process, the same thing's happening there. When you first select open to work, you're going to be at the top of the list of exposure. As time goes on, you're going to start falling down the list, right? So what do? You go in, you have to, and it's a little bit of a hassle, you hit delete, and then you go back and you open it up and you remake your selections. I've noticed lately my selections, even though I hit delete, my selections are there when I reopen. So let's just see if it does work. If it doesn't, I'll redo mine. So. Oh boy, where did we come in here? Oh, open to, pardon me. Let's see if it held them. Yes. So it held most of them. So you can go back in, you can reset these up. And there's always that decision between recruiter only and all LinkedIn members. And there's a debate, right? The thing about LinkedIn is recruiters, they're people, right? They have opinions. They vary just like anybody else. Some of them love that green open to work banner, some of them hate it. Just be aware of that, right? Same thing with members within your network. Some go, oh, wow, they're desperate. And that might stimulate them to help you. Or they go, wow, they're desperate. I don't want anything to do with you. We're dealing with people. So just be aware that that is part of the process. I have heard that open to work with the green banner, the all LinkedIn members, works well the lower you are in a job process, right? Or career process. Coming out of college, open to work is incredible to give to all members of your network if you have a decent sized network. As you get up and later on, it probably has less effect, but still can be used. Now, recruiter, if you currently work for a company, but you're in transition, it won't tell your company that you're in transition or that you've turned this on. Just so you know, they do their best to make sure that that doesn't happen. Now, if it's an independent recruiter, maybe they could see it, but company recruiters can. Now, one thing that I find fascinating, if you select all members, right? When I hit save, LinkedIn is going to give me the opportunity to start a post, right? If I go into this post, I can get rid of this because it looks like everybody else. I can put my own graphic in there, right? I can write whatever I want up here. This is the only post on LinkedIn that will go out to every single one of your network. When you normally post, LinkedIn will send it out to a handful of people, your most active. And if they respond well, they'll send it out to a few more, right? And you kind of earn your reach. This one is full on reach. So you can use it like a press release, right? If you want everybody to know, you can do it this way. You can take all this stuff out, right? You can, if you've got premium, you can actually write it with premium or with AI, right? That's an option if you saw that. But I like the fact that you can do this. You can then hit post, right? Everybody sees it. And when you're done, you can go right back here if you wanted to, and you could, pardon me, you could then change it back to recruiter only. So when do you want to do a PR blast? It's not going to be Friday night at midnight, right? Because nobody's going to see it. But if you did that maybe Tuesday morning, let's say 7:30, 6:30, and then you turned it off because you don't want anybody to see that banner, right? That gives you the option to get maximized exposure and keep the banner off your profile if you want it off your profile. So just a little trick. It's the only time that I know that you can get full reach in your network, and it can have huge impact. So it does have a value, and you can turn it on and off. And once you've done that, nobody sees that little open to work, and you've already customized the email to get you to where you need to go. So that's something I don't know if many people know you can do. Go ahead and delete all that. I have to reset that up later. One of the other items, and I think we talked about this a little bit, that was, let's see if I can move this down a bit. There is a tool set. It's called Career Explorer. And what Career Explorer does is it grabs the information that's on your profile and it compares it against options of where you want to go, right? And LinkedIn actually created this 13 years ago. Most people don't know it exists. They updated. It was for school systems only, for people helping people, as they were graduating school. It's on their GitHub. So linkedin.github.io and then /career-explorer, right? The UX is horrible. So I just say, scroll down this, let all this stuff fly around. They're trying to describe it, but it's horrible. Keep going down until you see a city box. Okay, so that's right here. So you can select a city, right? You can select the job you want to have. Who knows? Corporate communication. So what it's going to do is now comparing my profile to this particular job title, right? And that's a market value filters, one of the ways you can find out. So it's going to then compare that, and it's going to say, these are the skills that people within this industry, in our database of 1 billion people, these are the skills they have. These are their top skills. So as you're building a resume, if that's the position you want, then you should consider these skills. If you don't have them, don't put them in. If you're working on it, you could still put it in, and you're writing them. I'm taking courses on crisis communications, right? I don't have it yet, but you can still get that keyword in there. These are the same kind of keywords that we want to get into the context of our profile, but also as our skill sets, because that's really what these are. They're all just skills. They're common to that position. Now, what is, I think, incredibly unique is LinkedIn will look at where you are, right? This target position, and then how likely it is to basically move over to another opportunity. And so it's going to tell you the popularity. It's going to tell you what you have, all the way to what you need to work on, what's more on this side of the process. These would be the skills that LinkedIn thought I was missing to make that transition. And some of those are my skills. I just haven't put them in my profile or in my skill sets because they've stopped us at 50, right? But it'll go on down and it'll kind of show you this. And this is a really good way to look at, can I pivot from this position to that position, right? Are my skills transferable through different industries? And so that's really what this is going to tell you. But I really like the fact that it's going to line this out. So if you want to be found, and this is the title of that position, then this is a great way to do it. Oop. It would help if I could spell today. So,
Kevin, I just want to give people some time to ask some questions. So if we can just like kind of end over here, that would be amazing. When we have a few minutes for our questions and answers, if that's okay.
absolutely. How do we do that, Mindy?
Well, I see Michelle Norton has raised her hand, so we're going to call on Michelle. There's a couple of questions in the chat, and so if we have time, I'm going to get through some of those. But let's start with the folks who are raising their hands. If you can just, I guess, stop your share, Kevin, that would be great, and then we can see the folks a little bit better.
There we go.
Ah, there we go. And where is Kevin? Let's see.
Do you want me to start?
Yes, Michelle, if you could, that would be amazing.
Cool.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kevin, by the way, for all of these wonderful insights, some of which I had no clue about, and some of which I actually did know.
Good.
I have a question regarding the endorsement section on your skills. I filled up all 50 skills a long time ago. There are so many different skills that mean exactly the same thing. They're basically synonyms for each other. And yet when I go, I do have premium. And when I go and look at a job, it does tell me, oh, you're missing this, that, the other skill. But actually I have those skills. Now, should I delete the skill and lose the endorsements and then put the new skill in? Or what do you recommend? Because that's what I don't want to do, is lose all those endorsements.
If you're consistently seeing the other one, not the one you chose, then it's probably smart to do that. I always look at, there's a lot of people who, SaaS and cloud, right? Software as a service and cloud. Cloud's probably the hotter term right now, but they got all these endorsements for SaaS. But when the job posts, it always says cloud. That would be a situation that it would either make sense to add cloud in, maybe take something else out, like maybe it's Microsoft Word, right? And just use Office to cover all the Microsoft products, that kind of stuff. But that would be a situation where you'd want to do that. Now, interesting enough, endorsements are huge. because what an endorsement says, when you pick a skill, Michelle, it's basically you saying, I have social media skill, right? When somebody else says you have it, then it's kind of a social proof, right? So you can say you have it, that may or may not believe you. Other people say you have it, I'm going to believe you even more. And then people who are highly ranked in that skill say you have it, that's a multiplier. So when it comes up, if a recruiter types in that particular skill, social media, and let's say you have 55 endorsements, and there are people who have 200 endorsements, there are people who have 3 endorsements, you're going to be somewhere in the middle of the list. So the more endorsements you can get, the higher up the list. And remember those multipliers, and those are the people who are highly endorsed for those skills. So they're kind of like a 10x in the process. I don't know what the real number is, but they do multiply that, bring you up the list really quick. And I always suggest if you've got 50 friends on LinkedIn, have a skills party, right? Ask them, come to my profile and give me everything you know I have. And what I'll do for you is I'll come to your profile and I'll give you everything I know you have. That's not promising 100% match, right? You're just saying, I'm going to do that. Now, if you don't have Cobalt as a coding skill, don't go give Cobalt to somebody else, because believe it or not, that detracts, because LinkedIn will look at that and say, you don't have it, but you're giving it. So that skill's actually decreased. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. That pretty much clarifies it. So, for example, the type of skills that I'm talking about are business analysis, business requirements. They have a zillion different synonyms for the same work. And I may or may not have those actually as skills, but I definitely have it on my profile. And being that I'm a business analyst, I'm highly endorsed for that. So then the question is, is it worth it to get rid of it? That's why I'm asking.
If it's not coming up in the job searches that you're doing as a skill set, that's when you want to consider changing it. But you also want to look at your whole list of skills and say, what is in there that's really not moving me forward, right? Because normally we set those up. Most of us set them up 8-10 years ago. A lot of them are the same ones. And people don't go in there and they don't modify them. They don't get rid of them. And it is because we get attached to, oh, this one's got 100 endorsements or 10 endorsements, or whatever it is. We feel like we shouldn't get rid of it because of that. If it doesn't move you forward, it's time to get rid of it, because the endorsements don't mean anything anyway. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay,
Michelle,
thank you very much.
Michelle, I'm going to add one little piece to this. When I'm talking to clients, what I recommend is that they look at 10 or 12 job postings that they really want, their dream jobs, and then set up a spreadsheet so that you can see which of those skills are most asked for, and then you can see where the trends are.
Yeah.
And so if the one that you're so attached to is never coming up in any of those jobs, then it's time to take a look at that and maybe take something else off, so you can put in the jobs, the skills that they're really asking for. It's really important. It's got to stay current. Those job postings are gold. They tell you so much. And now that they have the skills listed out, you can quickly see which skills they're looking for.
Yeah.
And so when you start seeing those trends, that's when you need to start looking at your own skills to make sure that you are coming up in those searches, because they'll tell you right now, you have 8 of the 10 or 6 of the 10, whatever that might be. But that's a good way to see where the trends are.
Yeah, let me give you another example. So I've actually taken the Microsoft exam on LinkedIn for PowerPoint, and I've got their, what do they call it when you pass their exam? I forget what it's called. Anyway, so I'm verified for PowerPoint. Yet sometimes, because I don't have PowerPoint checked off as a skill, I come up like, well, PowerPoint is missing from this job requirement. It's ridiculous. But yeah, so I mean, that's an example of where I might not want to say Microsoft Suite and put PowerPoint in there, because that's a requirement in many of the jobs.
Yes. And if it is a requirement and it's showing up, absolutely bring it in. The other thing about that is skills assessments are going away, which is really a shame. They used to kind of multiply the value that we had as a skill when it was listed, but they're actually pulling those out. They're replicating those. So that's, I think, kind of crazy that they're doing that, but that's what's happening. But yeah, that would be an instance where you'd want to incorporate that in if it's coming up constantly. The other component of it, when LinkedIn looks at a profile, they do use AI to make certain assumptions and to also scan the content and context of your profile. So if you were to put PowerPoint in probably your positions, right, that you did X amount of PowerPoints, blah, 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 even though you didn't have it in the skill, it will probably then pick it up because it's in the context. And based on their AI position, industry, company, they know that that was also a skill that would be required of you. You will get it that way as well. So 2 ways you can kind of move it forward. If you can't find room to take one out, then get it into the context of your experience.
Yep. Thank you so much. That really helps. That's what I do. It's all in the context and it's already there. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
Nicola. All right, Kevin, do you have time for one more question? I see Neil's hand is raised.
Definitely.
Okay, Neil, would you like to say?
Hi, Kevin. As always, enjoyed your presentation. My question is regarding what does LinkedIn call it? It's regarding birthdays. I remember a number of years ago, LinkedIn used to notify me of my first connection's birthday, and I would send out a note. They haven't done that, and I've been trying to search and find it. It's not anywhere that I can see in the application. What can you tell me about that?
It should be on your networking tab. If I can pull up a shared screen here, I'll show you. Okay, so if you open up that networking tab, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you scroll down here to celebrations. I have to move this over because pictures are on top. See all. That's where you should have birthdays. So LinkedIn isn't technically going to push them out to you, but they are here. And so you can go in there. What I like about this is they're all in one place. So if you wanted to look at that daily, you could send a nice message. It'll go straight into that process. What I also like is they've put how many years you've been connected to that individual.
Now, this is interesting because I don't have that that birthday tab.
Okay.
Because I'm underneath my underneath the section in network where people have requested to connect. Then there are, it says, people who follow so and so and people I might want to connect with from my alma mater, people, thought leaders.
Okay.
And that just continues.
This is the only place I know. What I will do is let me, because I used to have to save this because there was a time where they built this and they didn't give access to it. So I would save it and it would help me. I want to select actually the birthday one for you. And I'll put that in the comments because then you should be able to get to it through that process. Because they have started to migrate a little bit of LinkedIn from this setup to kind of a go and see and select kind of process where they've split this page in two, and it would be on the second side of the page. That would be probably the only difference.
Okay.
Let me see if I can get back over here. Got too much open on my screen. So let me see. Where are comments here? I use Microsoft Teams, so I don't normally drop things in comments. Oh, chat, there we go. Let's see if I can get it right in there. So that may lead you there.
Okay.
So you can try that out, but you should have it. And it's been one of those things that they've been rolling out and they've changed it a little bit in where it's positioned, but that link should get you to the right place.
All right. Thank you, Kevin.
Absolutely.
All right, Kevin, I want to thank you so much. Let me see if I can get Kevin up here. Kevin, can you say hello? So we can get you in the front here.
Am I off? I don't know how that happened. There we go.
Okay.
Don't know how that happened.
It happens sometimes.
I was cleaning my teeth or something. I didn't want you to see me.
So many great nuggets, Kevin. I can't thank you enough for all you do and all you share, and so generous with your sharing. I want to tell everyone that we have recorded this, that we will be posting the link tomorrow. I hope to get my golden nuggets out tomorrow. Thank you, everyone who participated. Remember to save the chat if you want to have that chat in your inbox. And don't forget to sign up for Kenneth Lang next month. We will hope to see you all again then. Please reach out to myself or to Kevin if you have questions. We could have spent so many hours on this, but we don't want to take up too much more of Kevin's time. Thank you again so much. And we hope to see you all around LinkedIn. Remember everything Kevin said. You want to be posting, you want to be creating, you want to be looking at your profile and updating it as often as possible to get seen and to be visible.
Stay active.
Stay active. I wish you all a wonderful day. And Kevin, hope to have you back again with more great insights. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mindy, for having me. Y'all take care.